SC Media and our sponsor, Tynes, are proud to present this month's CISO Stories program. This is the show where CISOs share tales from the trenches and unpack leadership lessons learned along the way. Find this month's CISO Stories content at CISOstoriespodcast.com.
Are you a cyber professional who enjoys writing policy documents or building checklists or creating documents from scratch? Do you have endless amounts of time and money to focus on developing tools and templates, or would you rather do the work of protecting your organization? The Cyber Risk Collaborative has developed new resource toolkits, which are CISO developed and topic curated guidance, tools, and templates to save your team tens of thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours of work. Visit CISOstoriespodcast.com/CRC to sign up for the community and get your toolkits. Greetings everyone. Welcome back for another episode of CISO Stories Podcast. You got me as your host, Jess Hoffman, and our special guest, Kevin Nikkhoo. What's up, Kevin? How you doing today?
Hi, Jessica. I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining. I really enjoyed our prep call discussion. You're a expert of all things for SOC as a service. Why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about what that means?
Well, I think there's a lot of misnomer about SOC as a service in the industry in general, because most people think if you've got a bunch of tools, you could be a SOC. But I think SOC as a service has three very important fundamental elements, and that's people, process, technology. The general conversation in the industry is tools, technology, but having the right people with the right certification, right training, knowing their capabilities, and creating different levels of expertise, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4 within a security operations center, so that you've got different expertise supporting the team, is very important. Now, when it comes to processes, it's really important to understand how you process an incident. What are the playbooks? How many playbooks do you have? Have they been tested? And do you evolve these processes so that you adjust with the new incidents and new discoveries in the cybersecurity field? So SOC, as I said, SOC is not just about tools and technology. You got to have all three fundamentals in order to be a effective SOC.
Well, SOC as a service, though, like what does that mean? What's the difference between SOC as a service and just having a SOC?
Well, the services, actually, that's a very good question, because the services is what makes it different. So when we talk about a number of services that are provided with SOC, including monitoring infrastructure, monitoring cloud, Office 365, AWS, GCP, Google, vulnerability scanning, pen testing, backup, disaster recovery, EDR, MDR, patch management, and so on and so on. These are the services that are really important as part of a SOC as a service. Now, if you have a SOC, you might have the technology, and they call it a platform, and then you have to buy the platform and operate it yourself. But when you're SOC as a service, then you have multiple of services built on the platform, so that the customers can pick and choose what services they want based on their budget and priorities, and be able to deploy those services over time and as needed. So the service component means you're riding on the top of the platform and delivering the components as services with the click of a button when the customer needs it.
I like how you phrase that SOC as a service. Um, it depends on the type of business the business needs, because obviously smaller businesses might not have a CISO and security team. They're wearing multiple hats, versus a larger business might have a 50-person SOC, as well as other security folks on the security team. So in your experiences, which businesses or what types of businesses would you say probably benefits the most from software SOC as a service?
I think this is a very good question because when we look at the overall market, we find out that the companies that want to focus their core competency, they don't have a 24/7 operation, particularly as it relates to cybersecurity and security in general. They don't hire and retain cybersecurity staff. They need subject matter experts. It's hard to find good cybersecurity personnel, and maintaining them, hiring them, and retaining them is difficult. So, for all those reasons, the companies that want a SOC as a service to become their right arm in their IT business to manage cybersecurity. That's what where really SOC as a service shines, because you basically plug in into a gap that the customers have, and we kind of promote the idea of we are our virtual cybersecurity department. We partner with the customers so that they have this cybersecurity department to augment the existing staff for those reasons that I mentioned. They would like to have that kind of an arrangement.
Trusted partner indeed. You got all the information. The SOC as a service, they see everything, all the traffic, all the access levels, everything, right? That's a pretty big, tall order to fill and fill it in the correct way that the customer needs. And I think you hit it on the head when you said that there is a lot of turnover in our industry, especially with SOC analysts or entry level, because everybody's trying to get to the next position. I've met
Yeah.
a few people that are happy being SOC analysts, but most people want to get into management or they, continue to progress in their career, which is great too. Um,
And
uh,
there's $4 million jobs short in our industry. So because of that, there's a lot of movement. And as you know, I've noticed that as soon as on your resume you've got SOC as a service or SOC analyst, you become a great
Hot
asset to someone.
commodity,
And
absolutely.
yes, exactly.
I'll
And
take
that's why
you.
there's such a big turnover. And we kind of solve that problem because we have a large resume, and any SOC should have that large database of resumes that you continuously bring these people in. So that element of where do you find these people is resolved because there is a continuous training and bringing new people in so that there's continuity in the SOC process.
Yeah, and I'm really glad to have you on to talk about this month's topic of security operations. Because when I was reviewing your resume, I am just so fascinated, and so I like, dare I say, like worship. I have a lot of respect for the SOC because they're like
Well,
everything in our security program, right? I mean, if we don't have not just the right tools in place, because we could spend $1 million on Splunk or Red Canary or whatever. If it's not configured properly, all those things, if we don't have the people that are trained to be able to use it, like there's just so much precision that goes into a SOC, a security operations center. And I actually am a fan of outsourcing it when it makes sense. And I know I mentioned earlier about, depending on the type of business, maybe small business, larger business, different service offerings that the business has. But even a large business, I think, can benefit from security operations center as a
oh yeah.
service.
Oh yeah, as a matter
Yeah.
of fact, we've had like large insurance companies that they say we have our own people that we have our own SOC, but it only operates 9 to 5, but we don't have 24/7 operations. Could you come in and actually monitor off hours that we don't have our people and augment us? And for example, they have another platform, and then they wanted us to get that feed from that platform into our SOC so that there is a seamless play between what they already have and what we have. That's the kind of stuff that a SOC should be able to do. For smaller companies, there are packages that services them and at the right price point And they're yeah, and for the larger companies, then you've got menu of services so that they can get what they want. So a SOC in general, like you said, because of those reasons we talked about, core competency, lack of resources, subject matter experts, and all of that, a SOC has to be able to address the needs of small business, but also be able to address the needs of the larger enterprise with packaging the right services to fit that specific requirement for that market segment.
So let me ask you this for the listeners, and I'm curious too. Kev, can I call you Kev?
Of course, you
Kev,
could call me Kev.
Kev, Kev's my new buddy. Um, if I were in the market to implement or procure a stock as a service, what are, regardless of what size I am, what day and time, whatever, what are like the top three questions I should ask as a consumer when analyzing and interviewing and doing my market research for stock as a service vendor?
You just read my mind. I don't know how you came up with that question because you and I haven't talked about this, but I actually posted on my LinkedIn questions to ask how to choose a sock. This is what an interesting coincidence. Um, but there's questions. Like it goes back to people, process, technology, right? When it comes to people, what kind of certifications do your people have? What kind of training do you provide? How do you make sure that they're efficient and knowledgeable on the tools and platform that you're using, and so on and so forth. So there's a series of questions about people. Then there's a series of questions about processes. You know, how mature is your playbooks? How many playbooks do you have? What's your escalation process? What's your SLA? How do you inform us? Can you map to our escalation process? There's a question about technology. Are you agnostic? Are you 24/7? What kind of reports do we get? For example, very important, SOC as a service is behind the scenes activity. So how do you present results? How do you show that you're being effective at what you do? For example, do you have mean time to detection? Do you have mean time to resolution reports? Do you have reports on uh, categories of incidents so that customer can be very clear about what has happened? How often do you have executive briefing? Um, another question that I think people should ask is that how agnostic are you? Are you trying to sell us products from your strategic partners, or can you consume data, ingest data from the tools and products that we have already invested in? Because a true SOC should not ask the customers to rip and replace, but coexist with whatever environment investments the customer have invested in. So
Great
there's a
point.
series of questions, and actually we have an ebook on what questions to ask on how to use a SOC, because that question is actually very instrumental in our industry because there's a lot of noise. I talk about noise all the time, right? That noise in the industry does not allow the customers to know who is a real player and who's just marketing and trying to land on an opportunity. And that question is very much plays into the answer that I gave you.
Yeah, and again, mad respect to stock across the world. Like everything they do is just crucial, from detecting to refining rules, to response. Like just everything is so critical to preventing an incident, detecting and preventing and responding to incidents, and potential breaches and all that. So all those things you said I think are very much key in making sure that you're getting the right support that you need. And I really liked what you said about being able to leverage the existing continuous monitoring, SIM, et cetera, tools that a customer might already have invested in, versus using maybe a proprietary, or the big vendors in the world that give all have all that available to their clients. On that note, let's talk a little bit more about the technology. So I know you're also into the usage of artificial intelligence to operate the SOCs more efficiently. Let's talk about that a little bit. I'm fascinated with that as well. I mean, AI is here. Let's embrace it. Let's do it. We still need to be careful. Obviously, we can't believe everything. We need to, the people factor is still very important. But could you tell us a little bit about how AI has maybe shifted some of the ways that the SOC has operated in your experience?
So AI is going to be extremely important for SOC operations as we move forward. I think it's still in its infancy, but it will be and continue. It will grow and it will continue to improve. The reason that it's really important is that it can, if you do the AI right, that means having the right AI agents to look for the right things and it's trained properly, then the time to detection and time to resolution becomes significantly faster. And because the bad guys are also using AI, it's a very good defense mechanism. Now, of course, AI is going to generate false positives, so you cannot have AI being the only element for discovering and responding. Uh, Today, as is for example in our SOC, we do have autonomous response, which the platform generates. Now, imagine that autonomous response is now becoming in milliseconds. So, right? Detection is in milliseconds and response becomes in milliseconds. This is something that is not available. It was not doable 6 months ago, a year ago. But with the right, to give you an example, in our situation, we have the most comprehensive AI in the industry with 21 agents. What that means is that every element of SOC can be enhanced using AI components that helps us do cross correlation of all the ingested data, understanding what's happening across the entire enterprise, and not just the silos of information. For example, I'll give you an example. EDR uses AI. Email security uses AI. So each individual component uses AI. But what does it matter? What's important is how you look at the entire enterprise and detect an anomalous behavior with AI, not from the individual components, but throughout the entire scale of enterprise security, cybersecurity. So AI allows us to go in that direction, reduce the time that detects an incident is detected into milliseconds, and also be able to create intelligent response. Notice that I said intelligent, not just response, but the ability to analyze that incident and say this is a true threat that I got to eliminate immediately, and therefore do autonomous, automatic response to that incident. That's why AI is so important moving forward, lifting the ability of SOC as it is today. Today, the human element is very important. Now, that human element is not going to go away because we still need eyes on the glass to analyze the results of AI and make sure there's not false positives. But what it does that's important is accelerates the detection and response. And that I think is going to be the wave of the future. We're seeing the beginnings of it right now, and it's going to get better and better over time.
So, do you think that, say, 5 years from now, uh, I agree, human factor isn't going to disappear. But what do you think that paradigm is going to look like as far as the AI and the individual in the SOC? Like
I
reduce
believe
workforce, maybe? Repurpose?
repurpose is a better word. I think, for example, SOC analysts are going to be more at the higher level, meaning the ability to analyze what AI is reporting, dig into it, make sure that it's not, false positive, and also be able to help the customers remediate the situation. AI may not be the right tool to do autonomous response, for example. If you have a manufacturing firm as a server and a server that's critical, and that server If you shut it down automatically, revenue's lost. You don't want to do that, right? So the better answer to that is AI detects it, but security analyst at that point in time works with the customer to resolve that issue immediately or very quickly. So I don't think the human element will be eliminated, but I think they're going to be repurposed to be more customer focused and address the customer needs instead of digging into the incident and figure out, if they can find that threat and incident, which is, what SOCs do today. So I think there's a change of roles over time. And at the same time, it reduces the cost for SOC operations, and SOC should be passing on those savings to the customer. So I anticipate over time, the cost of the SOC will go down and the end user customers will benefit from that.
I love it. I'm excited for it. I'm here for it. Let's go.
Me too.
Um, I did notice that on your LinkedIn you posted a lot about K through 12 threats. So just curious, because I work in the SLED area as well, and K through 12 and even higher education is definitely a target for the type of data that they have. Just curious your perspective on that. Like, do you see that there's a failure with the amount of or the intensity or complexity of security operations that are integrated into these K through 12 and higher education? Or what are your thoughts on, you sitting in your seat right now? Like, how can we be better at that? Or are they doing great?
No, they're not doing it at all. That is obvious. There's a map that's published that shows the number of attacks to educational institutions, and particularly K through 12, and the number of dots. It's pretty much it covers the entire U.S. map. That's how bad it is, and the reason that it has not been addressed, a multiple of reasons. Number one, they have tight budgets, and most SOC services, SOC as a service, is kind of pricey for the K through 12 and education institutions. And of course, we've solved that issue. That's why I talk about it in my LinkedIn post. But in general, most SOC as a service go to the commercial market and larger enterprises because they get the kind of margin that they expect from that they would like to have. You have to be a lot more cost effective when you move into K through 12. So that's one aspect of it, the cost. The second aspect of it is when you look at education market, not necessarily the universities because they can afford to have a large IT team. K through 12, they don't have large IT teams. They have operational staff. That means they maintain the servers, PCs, network that's existing, but they don't have the sophistication for cybersecurity. As such, they become a target because the database of students is extremely valuable for the bad guys. The lack of resources and knowledge within K through 12 is an element. Like if the board, the superintendent, really focused on this issue, then they would allocate budget for this. But there is a challenge for these schools. Where do I allocate? And I don't envy their position. Where do you allocate the limited budget that they have, right? Do you allocate for education or do you allocate your budget for, to resolve cyber security? Now, it's beginning to turn because they're beginning to realize the risk of not having the cybersecurity in that space is huge, and loss of data of student and parents is much bigger problem. In fact, there are multiple of incidents that have cost schools months of operation and $50 million in damages, correction of everything. One school, for example, right? One district. So that if they don't take care of it, it becomes a huge issue. So I think we've got a long way to go. Budget and knowledge, know-how, those are the reasons that schools are behind.
I feel like somebody should just be a good Samaritan and start a fund for all K through 12 SOC as a service, and it just be universal across the country. And
The
it's
good news is actually, the federal government actually started the pilot program. They've allocated $200 million for K through 12 as a pilot program, and they awarded it to some schools. But it's only a small fraction, very small fraction of all the schools in the US. But I think the attention is going there, and hopefully that'll start a wave of protecting schools. Education is really important, and we got to support our educators. We got to do something that they can focus on education and be educators and not worry about cybersecurity.
Amen. Yeah, MSISAC is a huge supporter, and it was funded under CIS, but and CISA, but that was unfortunately cut earlier this year. They're still moving forward to help the SLED community, but we always need more. So excuse me, we are actually at time, and we could keep talking, Kev, but I like this conversation. But I do want to close. I ask all my guests because you seem like a cool dude. I feel like you've been doing this forever. So tell me, Kev, what advice would you give your younger self? What 18-year-old Kev, what would you tell him right now?
Learn AI, start understanding the tools of AI. Stay with the technology because it is changing very rapidly. Um, I would say that 10 years ago we were talking about developers and development tools, and now we should be talking about AI and AI tools, and that's a big shift. I think if the 18-year-olds and the younger generation does not learn the new tools, they will be behind because there's definitely, without a doubt, a shift in what's going on in the entire industry. And if you do not know how to adjust, you will not be qualified for many job openings.
That's solid advice. I hope anyone listening, if you're in that position in school, going back to school, whatever, I think that's spot on, Kev, for great advice for right now. Exciting times, exciting times. Well,
It
thank you
is.
so much, Kev, for being on this show. I really enjoyed this conversation. I hope we can hang out sometime.
Jessica, I'll be in Philly soon. Maybe I can, we can go have lunch together. I would welcome that. Thank you very
I,
much for
I
having
would
me.
love that.
I also enjoyed the
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Hopefully, you got some tidbits on what SOC as a service is for our monthly topic security operations. It's been fantastic. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, weekend, all that good stuff. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in for this month's episode of the CISO Stories podcast. We want to say a special thank you to this month's sponsor, Tynes. Tynes' AI-enabled secure workflow platform empowers your whole team regardless of their coding abilities, environment complexities, or tech stack. Learn more at CISOstoriespodcast.com/Tynes. Please subscribe to the CISO Stories podcast and you will receive a new episode on the second Monday of each month.